This morning, today, we talk about censorship. Censorship by Meta, in particular on Instagram. And I think this is a very interesting topic because we know that the US government and a bunch of tech companies, in particular Meta, are running a campaign against Europe, against the Digital Services Act, claiming there is censorship of content, and they are the advocates of free expression. And they have never found a single piece of evidence for that claim, that Europe is censoring anybody. What actually is happening, that Meta is censoring and downranking content that does not align with the political ideas of Mark Zuckerberg or the US administration every single day. And this is illegal in Europe. Today, we focus on voices around feminism, around women's health and violence against women, but this is not the only kind of accounts that are hit by that kind of censorship. A lot of political accounts, also progressive voices, have the same fate and go offline very regularly because of this. But one of the most prominent examples in the feminist space is the account My Voice, My Choice that everybody knows here, because they have promoted political change that has led to concrete improvements for women in Europe, and this House has voted on it. Their account has been suspended repeatedly during the past months, and this is a foreign influence on European internal affairs. You will hear very similar experiences from the content creators who are present today, who represent, in one case, 25 million people. That is big outreach. And I want to repeat, this is illegal in Europe. Meta is breaching Articles 14, 17, 20, 21, as well as 34 and probably a few others of the Digital Services Act. I addressed a written question to the Commission asking them to open a DSA investigation into this form of censorship. That was on May 5th. And the Commission responded they actually have an open investigation from 2024. And on 24 October 2025, so last year, they had preliminary findings that Meta was in breach of its obligation to put in place an effective internal complaint handling system. But nothing has happened since. So Meta is operating censorship illegally. They don't have the internal complaint handling system that they are forced to have, and the Commission is not doing anything. That was, last but not least, there's one particular case that is a little bit different, but talking about Meta and censorship that I would like to mention. That's the case of Meta whistleblower Sarah Wynne Williams, whom we invited for this press conference. She was forced to decline because under her NDA, she cannot have any kind of contact with the European Parliament. If she had been in the Trump administration, it would be impossible to silence her that way. So we have private companies which have a reach of 3 billion people globally who can silence individual people who could speak to their misbehavior and to their illegal behavior in Europe, and we cannot hear their voices. Today, you have the chance to listen to these great content creators that will tell you their individual stories, and I'm happy to hand over to them.
So we hand over to Martha Dimitratou from Repro Uncensored.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having us. It's an honor to be in an institutional space as obviously the Parliament, to be able to really make sure that everybody knows how systemic and epidemic censorship is, especially within the European Union, actually, which shouldn't be happening at all. Just this past weekend, we had about 10 accounts in Poland that were taken down from a lot of reproductive health, women's rights organizations. This shouldn't be happening. We asked actually under the DSA to find out why the accounts were taken down, and we didn't hear anything from them. It's been really, really difficult and harder to get the accounts reinstated. We have a lot of people here that are actually dealing with European contexts that are not being reinstated at all, and we have been documenting more than 500 cases of censorship just this year alone, a lot of them being within the European Union. We're finding harder because AI is the one that is often moderating and reviewing the appeals that we're submitting. We're seeing that it's not, unfortunately, just women's health, reproductive health organizations, just like you said, but also queer creators, environmentalists, and unfortunately more and more just civil society, just, like artists, people who are just sharing and resharing a post that are seeing their accounts taken down and not being able to reinstate it. This is a direct threat to our democracies. People are not able to assemble together because their accounts are taken down. When we see cultural spaces totally banned, these are people who cannot get the information that they need. And it's happening more and more. The same thing with healthcare information. This is hundreds of thousands of women that are not able to get the information they need. On another context, this weekend, as the NATO summit was happening in Turkey, we had 80 accounts taken down. In that context, it's very, very difficult to reinstate the accounts because there is not such legal frameworks as we have in Europe. So what I think is very, very important is that we're able to really ask big tech to give us transparency and really follow through and be able to support and respect the legal frameworks that we have, such as the DSA. I can talk about this for ages. I would just like to say that we're having right now a Meta legal case in the Netherlands with exactly Meta, and because we are believing that they're actually very much discriminating a lot of accounts, including queer accounts. We are calling them to respect the DSA, GDPR as well, and very much freedom of expression and freedom of being able to assemble and come together in places like the Netherlands that have been having, culturally and historically very important laws when it comes to freedom of expression. So, again, I can talk for this for a long time, but I think it's very important to understand what a threat to democracy this is, and also how big tech from the US is able to implement in really blanket ways globally policies that they're deciding and they're not giving us any transparency and accountability on how they're deciding this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martha. We're happy to have Kay Polanco with us, co-founder of Feminist from the US.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kai Polanco, and I'm the co-founder, co-executive director of Feminist. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for those joining online. I'm here representing not just feminists, but the broader community of progressive creators and media organizations asking the same question. Who decided what content is dangerous, and why won't anyone tell us why it's dangerous or why it's considered content that should be censored? And as mentioned, I'm here from the United States, so let my presence be a symbol of the fact that we're not dealing with a local issue, we're dealing with a global issue that crosses borders. And when we're talking about digital censorship on social media platforms, we need to see it through this framework. I co-lead Feminist, a feminist media organization reaching 6 million followers on Instagram alone and 25 million people a month across our platforms. We're seen as a really trusted resource to Gen Z and millennial women, and one of the few places they know they can get accurate information about not only what's happening across the world in different crises, but also gender justice and as it relates to their body and their health. Over the past 2 years, we've measured this directly. Content about reproductive health reaches 72% fewer people than our average post and gets 76% fewer interactions. Follower count doesn't explain it. When we collaborate with accounts who range anywhere between 100,000 followers or 20,000 followers, and sometimes even 1,000 followers, those posts nearly get the same view on collaborations with feminists. So that looks like using the collaboration tool where they invite feminists and then they, will post a video on their own. And it will usually get around somewhere between 150,000 views to 200,000 views. Repeatedly. And to what that shows us is that there's some sort of systemic moderation happening in the back end when it comes to reproductive rights. Months before the 2024 US election, Meta deprioritized political content across its platforms by default, and with no clear definition of what counted as political. In the months leading up to that election, we shared basic voting information, how to register, where to find your polling place. A typical feminist post reaches around 1.5 million people. That's like, we post 6 times a day, so 1.5 million, that's our average reach. But when we posted about voter registration content a month before the US 2024 election in November, those posts would reach a maximum of 50,000 people. That's a significant decrease to our average. That is a direct correlation between platform suppression and a population's ability to participate in its own democracy. What we're really looking at is the front lines of whether or not we have a future of democracy. Here in Europe, we have guidance on how to address these rights abuses under the Digital Services Act, and that act is essential in bringing accountability and transparency to big tech. Yet, This is not the norm. This is a unique bill that must be protected and also must be enforced. This censorship isn't random, it's systemic. It happens along the exact same lines of identity, race, gender, politics, class, and ability that already define who is systemically marginalized in our society and culture. But if you look online today and see who is actively being censored, you're seeing LGBTQ plus communities, you're seeing women, you're seeing women's health organizations, especially women of color, are being silenced. The same people already against the patriarchy and inequality in everyday life are experiencing that same man-made systemic violence online. We know that the systems rooted in harm and oppression in the physical world are the very same systems that continue to censor and oppress people online, because they were built by the very people who uphold white supremacy, patriarchy, fascism, and anti-democracy movements. I truly believe that gender equity is not possible under a systemically censored algorithm. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kai. We're happy to have with us Justyna Wydzinska from Poland, and you are working on abortion rights.
Yes, I'm a Polish activist from Abortion Dream Team and also the first European activist convinced for helping abortion. So I have this privilege today to say about the Polish perspective. So abortion in Poland is accessible only because of the organizations like ours, Abortion Dream Team and Women Help Women. We helped every day in 130 abortions, including many that should be available in Polish hospitals. This isn't the first time our accounts have been suspended by Meta, but never before blocked, or our 5 accounts simultaneously like this time. Nearly all of the organizations that help with abortions. This isn't just a matter of censorship or symbolic visibility. We use social media primarily to help and provide information that can't be obtained elsewhere in Poland. Every day, our organizations receive between 200 and 350 messages asking for help. Meta's block prevents us from responding to all these messages and requests, even disable our autoresponder, leaving the people who write to us completely without any support. Messages like these are going unanswered. Hi, I don't know where to start, where to go, what to do. I'm 4 weeks along. It's not even visible on ultrasound yet. I don't want to wait. I don't know how long it is. Is it safe? Hi, I have started bleeding heavily, and I'm a little worried. Should I go to ER? Let me know because I'm a bit scared. God, so you didn't block me on purpose. I was already scared. I got on the wrong page, and it was a scam when I wrote, and suddenly everything disappeared. We want to be clear. What's happening, it's not a technical glitch. It's not a coincidence. 5 organizations blocked simultaneously in a country where access to legal abortion is already a fiction. People, often terrified, alone, sometimes bleeding, pregnant and unsure what to do, are left without nothing and at the exact moment when they need answers most. Meta is not blocking content. Meta is blocking a lifeline. So we are appealing not only to Meta, not only to tech bros, but to everyone listening today. This cannot be a story that fades away the moment this conference ends. We demand the restoration of our accounts, a transparent explanation of this decision, and a guarantee that organizations provide medical and informational support will not be treated like criminals. As long as Polish law denies people an abortion, we will not stop answering these messages, with Meta or without Meta. But no one should have to choose between a platform's silence and the safety of the person on the other side of the screen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to Josie from Germany. Stop Crying Josie. And your full name is Josie Margolis.
Yes.
The website is the initiative is Stop Crying Josie.
Hello everyone, my name is Josie and I'm a German content creator affected by Meta's restrictions targeting women's health, LGBTIQ+ rights and democratic participation. On my Instagram account, I educate people about sexualized violence, the rise of far-right extremism in Germany and globally, and the importance of women's rights as well as democratic principles. I've been building a platform over the past 2 years, spending hundreds of hours of research, writing scripts, filming, editing videos, and doing community work. On April this year, when my account on Instagram just reached over 60,000 followers, Meta deleted it after I drew attention to a rape-related Telegram group where men drugged their wives, girlfriends, daughters, and female friends, sexually abused them, and posted the footage of the evidence on the chat. I didn't receive a warning or any further explanation. All Meta told me was that my account was violating community guidelines. This is against the Digital Services Act, which requires Meta to inform users of the exact reason for any restriction. Since then, I faced several other restrictions from Meta. My substitute account was completely restricted after I drew attention to a sex offender in a post. According to Meta, I was sexually abusing adults. With that post, so they censored me. I can no longer reach people who don't already follow me, and my posts are completely excluded from Meta's algorithm. This isn't just a feeling, it's an actual restriction shown and explained in my account status section. This means my account can no longer grow, which makes posting on it essentially pointless. To start over, I created several new accounts. Every single one was deleted within just a few hours. Additionally, the Instagram account for my online shop was deleted simply because it was linked to my main account. My income has decreased rapidly since then. As a self-employed woman, I depend financially on both my private account through ad partnerships and my online shop account. I've spent around 2,000 euros trying to get my account back, including taking legal actions, but without success. I also appealed to the EU Account Center regarding the restrictions on my substitute account, but they declined my appeal, because it was restricted due to sexual assault, a category they exclude from the program. I did not commit sexual assault. Meta's AI falsely flagged my post. There is currently no official way for affected creators like me to get their account back once Meta's AI has ruled against an appeal. This issue doesn't just take away creators' hobbies and their safe space and their financial independence, it takes away our voice. Just yesterday, I was finally able to get my account back thanks to Martha and Repro Uncensored. But there are still several other creators who are fighting against Meta's restrictions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josie, and thank you to all of you for sharing your stories. Are there any questions in the room or online? And if so, please just raise your hand. I see a question. Yes, please.
Hi, Oliver Grimm with the Austrian newspaper Die Presse and the newsletter La Matinale Européenne. Question to you. You said the Commission had started looking into Meta's. I've just had a quick crash course in the DSA, so I looked at the articles you mentioned. Has the Commission provided any further explanation what they tend to do now? Because, I mean, of course, the first stage in their inquiry is to state that obviously there was a violation of the DSA. Have they said what their next steps would be? And sort of a kind of broadband question to all of you. Do you have specific suspicions who might be behind these campaigns? Because my assumption would be that Meta is only interested in one thing, which is making its shareholders more wealthy. So I'm not really sure that they themselves are running ideologically motivated campaigns. I think they're quite agnostic about this. But there seem to be political actors who specifically follow your work and then, you know, start instigating these things. Can you name them, or can you say who might be behind that?
I'd like to quickly, before I give the floor to you, check, are there any other questions online? You can just turn on your camera and raise your hand, or in the room. And at the moment, thank you, Oliver. I give the floor to Alexandra. There's a question. Oh, now I see it. Okay, but we do this after.
Okay, we keep a few minutes for that one. Yeah, to the first question, I can read out what the Commission told me to your first question. It's the Commission is not in position to comment on the details of its investigation. So we don't know what the further steps are. What the DSA says is once the Commission finds that Meta is in breach, Meta has some time to respond to that. And then the Commission takes a final decision on a fine and stopping those practices. I think 9 months is a really, really long time to take that decision on for Meta to respond. So the Commission should have acted in the meantime, in my opinion. Maybe if I can also take the second part of the question just before the others come in. I think there is both of the things that you insinuated are true, I think. I think on the one hand, Meta leadership, that is Mark Zuckerberg, has an interest in restraining that content. In January 25, he did make a statement where he said, he said he would allow more freedom of speech. If you look then into the practical terms and conditions on what they were actually allowing was more hate speech. And he did mention that he would align more with President Trump's priorities. And we know what the MAGA priorities are, and it's certainly not feminist speech. So I think there is a political background. He's also restricting what Meta AI, this is not under the DSA, but it's symptomatic of what is happening. If you are a minor, you're below 18 years old, on Meta AI, you can't answer questions on contraceptives anymore, let alone abortion. I tried, there's a research that Martha has participated in. I tried, we put in, we're in Belgium, I'm a 17-year-old, I want information around contraceptive on how not to get pregnant. And Meta AI, you see the content, you see the answer building up in the chat, and then it goes away. And then you put in Belgium, and you see the whole answer. So there is censorship on Meta AI in the US very clearly, not in Europe, but in the US. So I think it's quite legitimate to think that that transfers also to how they moderate their meta content, which is done with AI and probably with Meta AI. So I think this is not a coincidence. It is also true that a lot of far-right actors notify progressive accounts continuously. This also happens. I'm not making this about this, but I'm from the Green Party, and Green Party accounts like local chapters, the youth organization, they face this problem on a daily basis. So the notification problem of far-right actors, notifying those accounts and then the accounts getting taken down without human review, noticing that those notifications are illegal, basically, and there's no evidence base, that happens as well from my point of view. But.
So, Martha, do you want to answer the second part of the question as well? And then we take 2 more questions, and we have 5 minutes left, so I would...
Yeah, I'll do it very quickly. I'll just add to what Alexandra said, because she answered it very well. We're not 100% sure every time an account's taken down if it's intentional or if it's not. We are seeing, however, that there are groups of anti-progressive accounts that are gathering together, including in other platforms, and are just reporting our accounts en masse. This has happened before. We also believe that it could be very much the AI and the way that moderation is set up. What I think is very interesting and that we're seeing a lot with our work is how hard it is to get the accounts reinstated, and that often what we hear from, in that case, Meta, is that we believe these accounts should not be reinstated. So if there is intent or not, we suspect that often it can be. What we do know is that they are not interested in reinstating the accounts, whether this is by an AI moderation that reviews the account or by then a human that does this. So, and we're seeing this more and more. And around big political moments in the US especially, we have seen big waves of accounts being taken down one after another. I'm talking about hundreds of accounts, and that's just what we have documented. I suspect that there are like hundreds and hundreds more that remain undocumented within the European Union.
Thank you. We have 2 questions online, and I will start with Romero Ströbele, giving the floor to you from German Tagesspiegel Netzpolitik.org. And please indicate who your question is addressed to. I think you need to turn on your camera and your microphone. You are still muted.
Yes. Can you see and hear me?
Yep. Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you. So my question would be addressed to Alexandra Geese, generally, because I was wondering now if there are any rules that apply to change the fact that this is being moderated by an AI? So would something maybe in the AI Act or in the DSA be able to say, hey, we see that this is not working, so you need to have some kind of possibility to have a human looking at this when you see that it's not working? Or if there is not such a thing, would that be a possibility to try to implement that in any way? And then actually I had a second quick question for the affected content creators. If there are any strategies that you used, if you try to go on other platforms, and if that has, worked in any way. Thank you.
So maybe first we also take the question from Alexandra Pogorzelska, and please indicate whom you are addressing your question to, and then we have 2.5 minutes to answer. So please, Alexandra, you are still muted.
Okay. Sorry. I'm working for a Swedish daily called Dagens ETC. I have a question for Stop Crying Josie. How did you get your account back?
With this question, go back to the other one because that takes a bit more effort, I think.
I got my account back through Martha because I was texting Repro Uncensored and they helped me get it back. So you have to ask her, actually.
I can really quickly try to answer this. So with Repro Uncensored, we help accounts get reinstated, right? And we often use a multi kind of approach, which is trying to talk directly to human rights and other departments within big tech themselves. We have to build cases, explain that the account is an activist account, which for them is a very limited framework. So we have to say, okay, like reproductive health obviously is activism, so is a lot of influencers here. What they do is very important for democracy and so on. We also actually work a lot with press. When we put pressure through press, it's been very effective. This is why it's very important that you're all here. And then also through comms and just general campaigning, this is why it's also very important to work with accounts like Feminist. And generally what we use is try strategy to try to impact the decision. It works. And sometimes it's fast, sometimes they have for a lot of evidence. And in that case, we're able to do it, and also with some of the Polish accounts.
Alexandra?
Yeah, no, just to underline that in Europe you don't have to demonstrate that it's an activist account. Taking down legal content which does not violate the terms and the conditions of the company is illegal. Just to make that point, you wouldn't even need to do that. This is already absurd that you have to have all these strategies to work with matter, because this is completely illegal. To answer the question, Ms. Strobele-Romero, there is no provision, as far as I remember, that content moderation has to be done by a human, but it has to be effective. And this is why I think the investigation on the complaint handling system and the statement by the Commission that it's being breached, the obligation to have an effective complaint handling system is being breached. There needs to be follow-up on that. There needs to be a fine for that, if this is happening. And then it's up to Meta to improve their content moderation system in a way that this doesn't happen anymore.
Thank you very much. And I'm afraid the next ones are already waiting outside. So please don't hesitate to reach out bilaterally. And we are happy to arrange bilaterals or here outside the room for those who couldn't ask their questions yet. Thank you very much to everyone for joining. Thank you very much and have a good afternoon.